Every horror movie fanatic is familiar with Stephen King. There's no doubt that he's responsible for some of the best scary movies in Hollywood. In fact, there's no other author whose works have been turned into as many film adaptations as his. As Halloween approaches and fall blooms, you may be looking to watch something that matches your spooky mood. Do you want to find out which Stephen King movies can do the trick? Keep watching to find out. At number 10, It, 2017. This isn't the only adaptation of King's novel of the same name. While the 1990 miniseries by Tommy Lee Wallace has some amazing moments, we think this movie is a wonderful attempt. The clown played by Bill Skarsgård has a surprising ability to smile like that creepy creature. While the majority of the cast is made up of young kids, the movie is still rated R. In fact, it became the third highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. The Loser Club consists of several amazing young actors like Jeremy Ray Taylor, Sophia Lillis, Chosen Jacobs, and Finn Wolfhard, to name a few. While the movie was praised for its cinematography, musical score, and direction, everyone agreed that the performances by the cast stood out. While there are some who criticized a large number of jump scares, most agreed that the movie had heart. It keeps you on the edge of your seat as you wait for the story to unfold. This is exactly what you want with a good scary movie, right? Next we have Dr. Sleep, 2019. Dr. Sleep was directed by Mike Flanagan and was based on King's 2013 novel. The book is a sequel to The Shining and is set several decades after the events of its predecessor. The film stars Ewan McGregor as psychic Danny Torrance, who is still struggling with his childhood trauma. Horror movie lovers will no doubt appreciate the movie. It's not just filled with scary moments, but offers fans a more contemplative view. You'll also be glad to see how Flanagan has balanced both King's and Kubrick's work. While the movie was considered to be very long by some, there was no doubt that the cast's performances were exceptional. Plus, we'd like viewers to ignore its poor box office performance and instead see the movie for themselves. This movie is a wonderful way for horror buffs to take a look at the inner workings of King's imagination. At number 8, Christine, 1983. If you read the synopsis of the plot, you'll probably have second thoughts. Yes, the story does follow the events after a car is seemingly possessed by something paranormal, but it's still worth your time. The movie was released in the same year as the novel and has since become a cult classic. Arnie Cunningham, who's played by Keith Gordon, buys a white and red 1958 Plymouth Fury named Christine that seems pretty beat up. Unfortunately, Arnie spends all of his money and ends up getting more than he bargained for. The car seems to have a weirdly jealous personality that begins to affect the young man as well. He has no idea that people have died in that car before. The movie is very different from what horror fans have come to expect. It's the unique story that makes for such a fantastic time. We encourage everyone to watch this. Moving on, we have The Mist, 2007. The Mist may be a scary movie, but it also contains sci-fi elements to it. Directed by Frank Darabont, the movie has a different ending to the one in the novel, which King was open to. The movie, as the title states, is a movie about a mist that envelops a small town after a severe thunderstorm. This unnatural phenomenon is concealing several vicious, creepy monsters that cause people to freak out. While the movie is terrifying, and we'd like to warn you, suffocating, there's a deeper point to it. It's not just a horror movie, but also explores human behavior. It shows just what people are pushed to do when placed in unordinary situations. In short, this movie does justice to King's work. In 6th place, Gerald's Game, 2017. If you're looking for something that isn't just hours of blood and gore, Gerald's Game is just for you. Instead of the usually redundant horror flicks, Mike Flanagan adapted what was thought to be an unfilmable story. The plot's pretty straightforward. A couple arrives in an isolated lake house in hopes to enjoy a romantic getaway. There, the husband handcuffs his wife Jessie to the bedpost, but after an argument, dies of a heart attack. That's when things go bad. Jessie is trapped, so she eventually begins to hallucinate Gerald walking and talking to her. Carla Gugino was cast as Jessie and was given a difficult task. She would have to carry the movie while being tied to the bed for the majority of its duration. Needless to say, she succeeded. Her performance is one of many reasons this movie should be on your to-watch list. At number 5, The Dead Zone, 1983. David Cronenberg directed The Dead Zone, which was based on King's novel of the same name. The critically acclaimed movie stars Christopher Walken as the school teacher Johnny Smith. He wakes up from a coma to learn that he's gained psychic powers. To clarify, the dead zone doesn't refer to any specific location. In the movie, it refers to the part of Johnny's brain that has suffered irreparable damage. The movie is considered one of the finest Stephen King adaptations. Cronenberg's direction, along with Walken's performance, make for a very entertaining watch. But that's not all it is. The movie's different in the sense that, like The Mist, it shows you how sad things can get. As someone with the ability to see the future, Johnny is burdened with the responsibilities that he feels compelled to live up to. The hopeful end is just the icing on top. Up next, Cujo, 1981. It's amazing just how creative Stephen King is, right? Who thought that he could create a scary movie that focused on a rabid dog? But that's just what Cujo is. This 1983 cult classic was directed by Louis Teague. The plot revolves around the Trenton family that arrives at Camber's home where they meet the dog. They get along with him initially and ignore the bat's bite on its nose, but things get worse gradually. From there, the dog begins to get more aggressive and kill the Camber's neighbor. To escape from Cujo, they take refuge from it in their car. While reviews for the movie were mixed, we'd ask you to ignore them. While the plot may seem simple enough, several things make it a standout adaptation. The tense vibes of the movie will keep you hooked till the end. At number 3, Misery, 1990. Like many of his novels, Misery 2 follows the life of a writer. This psychological thriller is scary, not because of supernatural reasons, but because of the terrifying Kathy Bates. She would rightfully go on to win an Academy Award for Best Actress for her performance. It is King's only adaptation to win the prestigious award, and one of his top 10 favorite adaptations. The movie centers around Paul Sheldon, who is rescued by his #1 fan, Annie. The retired nurse nurses him back to health in an isolated cabin that's surrounded by snow. From there, she goes on to torture the writer and forces him to write a novel that's based on his heroine, Misery. Rob Reiner had already directed King's The Body with another name, Stand By Me. With Misery, he succeeded in creating another terrifying adaptation that is filled with mind games and gore. If you haven't seen the movie yet, we highly recommend Misery. In the second place, Carrie, 1976. Somehow, everyone you'll talk to knows about the bucket of pig's blood. It's become a part of pop culture, and we can understand why. Unpopular teenager Carrie lives in a fanatically religious house with a mentally unstable mother. Her life isn't easy at home, and neither at her high school. When she gets her period in school, things only get harder for her. As the school bully tries to make life tougher for her, Carrie begins to learn more about herself. Brian De Palma was intrigued by King's story and pushed for the studio to let him direct. His attempt proved fruitful, as the movie went on to earn both critical and commercial success. This led Sissy Spacek, who played Carrie, and her co-star Piper Laurie both earned Academy nominations for their roles. Finally, in the first place, The Shining, 1980. What did you all expect? Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is not only one of the best horror movies, but one of the best movies of all time. It's a masterpiece. The Shining isn't scary just because of its supernatural elements, such as the twins and the scary visions. It's horrifying because you can just see how a family can implode when the members in it are pushed over the edge. And do we need to mention Jack Nicholson? His performance as Jack Torrance is easily one of his most iconic performances to date, and one of the reasons why this movie tops the list. And that's a wrap for this video. What is your favorite Stephen King adaptation? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.